Hi guys, and welcome back here to the Dev Realm. And today, if you guys remember, what we're doing here is that we are carrying on our series, and what we did on the last episode is that we've successfully created our login screen. All right, so what I want to do here for today is that I want to create an endpoint here to basically add currency and remove currency, and add items and remove items. All right, so the currency is attached to our player, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get the currency, how much money you have attached to our player. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my Laravel application, and I'm gonna open up here my database. I'm gonna open up here the user, and I'm just gonna add a new table here. I'm gonna do table, right? Arrow, string, actually it's gonna be integer, and I'm gonna call this table money, and it's gonna be nullable. Actually, it's gonna be default as 0. All right, now we have everything done properly. I'm gonna do php artisan migrate refresh. So I'm gonna refresh my database. I'm gonna go back to my Laravel user, and I should have here money as a column. And if you go to structure, the value should be set to 0. Great, we have everything working. Let's go back and open up here our user model. All right. If you don't know where's the model, it's just here, right? I just use Control Shift and P, and then I can just type the file that I want, and then you open up. All right, just in case you're wondering how I'm doing that. Now I'm gonna create here something called money, right, in the fillable, and that's it. That's all we gotta do. We don't need to worry about anything else. Great. Now let's fix the money, because that's easy to handle. All right, so what we need to do is that on our controller here, we're gonna create it's gonna create a new endpoint here called handle money. All right, and that's basically, it's gonna be something like, we're gonna get the money from the request, and we're gonna get our user, which is fine. One thing that we also need to do here is that I just wanna let me just remember, validation. Yes, that's it. That's a snippet that I always forget that I have saved on my VS Code. So what I'm gonna do is that I just want to make sure the money is sent as let's say a integer. All right, and doesn't have a minimum or maximum. It's just that needs to be sent as something. And here we're gonna have action, and it's gonna be let's say string, and yeah, so instead of being where is the pipe, there you go. So in add or remove, right? Nice. We could call deposit and withdraw, it doesn't matter, but anyway. Now from the request, we're gonna get the money, and we also gonna get our action. All right, now we can do things. So if we are adding if action equals add, yeah, there you go. That's pretty much impressive. That's all we gotta do here. The only thing that we need to do is that we need to get the user here. We're gonna add, we're gonna subtract the money, and remember, on Unreal, if the money equals 0, then we need to set to 0. All right, so all we're gonna do is that if equals money equals 0, right, equals 0, then our money equals 0. And now we're just gonna save the user, and we're gonna return saying money has been updated, and we can return the current user currency. I think that's so good. One thing that I would also like to update is that on our API, we have this user, right? If I open up my, let's say, user information on Let's just open up the user. We have hidden. No, I think that's it. That's all we need. That's fine. Right, sorry. Now let's test this. Let's test if we can add and remove the money. So let's go back to our Postman. Let's create myself as a user, right? Now let's go back to login. Let's get a token. Now let's copy this token and let's create here a new endpoint. I'm going to duplicate that. And I am going to just rename this to call, money, action, handle money. It doesn't matter. Now we need to create an endpoint. It's something that we haven't done. So in the API, I'm going to duplicate. And I'm going to call this handle money, right? Or you can just call money. And that is going to be handle money. I think that's the method that we call here. Is that right? Yes. Copilot already picked up. Nice. So I'm going to put it here, and this is going to be our money. That's fine. We're going to go back to our Postman. I'm going to change this to API/money, and it's going to be post. And now we're going to have actions. Now, remember that we are expecting a couple of things here, right? So we have money, which is basically how much money we want to send. So money. Let's say we are sending maybe 100. And now we have action. And the actions, they can only be add or remove. So if I put, let's say test, what's going to happen? If I press send. Now, first of all, we have a problem because I forgot to just put the right token here, right? Let me just copy the token, go back to the money headers, and just put the right token here. Sorry, copy that. There is a way we can set up Postman to do that for us automatically, but that's fine. We're just gonna do it like this. Now we are getting a 404. Probably it's because our APIs are not understanding that we're sending that. There is a way we can disable that, but I think it's safer for now. But anyway, I'm gonna add here. I'm gonna press send. I'm gonna go back, and we're having some kind of issue here because they're trying to assign money or not. So let's check what's going on here. Let's just do a DD of the user. And the user is basically not authenticated. And that's why, because on our API endpoints, we just need to add our middleware, and that needs to be the auth sanctum. So basically, I'm telling Laravel to use that middleware as default. Now we have the user. It has a money of 0, and look how cool is this, right? Now I'm gonna go back here, and I'm gonna press send. Money has been updated successfully, so I can keep sending money to the user, right? Now if I go back to the users and press refresh, I have the money exactly as the one I sent it. But now I can maybe type remove, and let's say I just want to remove, let's say 45. Press send. It has updated now to the right money. But now what happens if I remove, let's say 1000, right? Press send. Money is 0 because our rule, it's working right. So now that allows us already to store our player currency when you press sell the items, if you guys remember on the game. All right. All right, guys. Yeah. So now that we have all the stuff working, I wanna quickly do an update here. So we, instead of user, for example, send like it does a mistake and then do something wrong here, I want to basically allow the message to come through and basically say, oh, you did a mistake, just in case. Let's say we are trying to ping a user, whatever. It's just a way we can send a message. So in Laravel, I have a snippet called validate force custom validator, which is validate array. Yeah, this one. So what we're gonna do, instead of using the Laravel default validation that comes, we are gonna use this method. I'm just gonna clean up this a little bit. I'm gonna right click here, I'm gonna import. Make sure that I import the illuminate this one here, the second option. So it should be Illuminati validation validator, right? Now here's gonna basically do a validation. So I'm just gonna copy that, paste it in here. I'm gonna go back right up here, and I wanna copy this validation here, and we're gonna do something like, sorry, not here, but in there. I'm just gonna press send. Now we should have call undefined method validation make. That's fine. Maybe let me double check. Make. Maybe that's not the one I have to call. Let me just remove that. And I just to import the class and validation validator. I think it's this one here, support facades. Yeah, that's the second one. Let me double check here what's gonna happen. There we go. Nice. So now if I press and send, there we go. The selection action, it's invalid. All right. And we can return this as like 422. Basically, the validator that you want to use here is this one, Illuminati support facades, and then validator, you want to use the make method. We're going to pass the whole request, right? And we're going to basically pass here our rules that we had to define. So in this way, if you, I don't know, if you maybe send this as a string, you're going to have 2 errors, right? Just something that makes us easy for us to check with the user. So I'm going to copy this logic here, right? And I am just going to update it. Let me just save this stuff. I am just going to update it on where we have our register, all right? Because I feel like, I'm just going to open up our register here. I'm just going to copy that. And I'm going to go back to the requests. I'm just going to delete that folder. I don't need it anymore. I'm going to paste the request right here. And here we are just going to pass the request as a request. All right. And the reason why I would like to do this is because now when you register, let's say a user that's already on your system, you get errors. All right. And those errors, we're going to be using that to display on our Laravel, on our Unreal Engine front end, which is in the client. Now that we have done this, we have done the user stuff. Now let's create a new model, which is basically, in essence, means we're going to create a new table. And this table is going to be called item or player items. All right. So let's go and use Laravel to do that. So we're going to do PHP artisan make model. We're going to put the name of the model. So it's going to be player item. We're going to do -- migration. That's going to create for us a model and a migration. Now the table, it's going to be very simple, nothing too complicated. So let's go back here to our, let's see, database. Let's go back to our migrations and let's check the player items. So we're going to have the player items. What do we need? First of all, we are going to need the name of the item. We are going to need the, integer, and we're going to have here the quantity. We're going to have another one, which is going to be, the player ID, but the player ID should be on signed big integer. And instead of calling player ID, we're just going to call user ID. All right. And now I think we have price or something like this. I don't remember how we call it, but anyway. Now we have this. So we have a name, we have a quantity, we have a price, we have unassigned big integer user ID, which is going to be related to our user. All right. And the next thing that we're going to do here is that we need to go back to our, let's go back to our models. So we're going to go back here to HTTP models. Oh, one thing I forgot to do here is that make sure the player items is capital. Otherwise, it really doesn't like. But anyway, here, we are going to create a player to a user, right? So do we need a table name? Player items. Let me double check. Player items. Yes, we do need a player items name. Player items. Now I want to create a new relation. This is going to be a public function. Actually, let me just double search for belongs, or sorry, has one. Yes, that's the relationship that I wanted. So what I want to do here is I'm going to import this has one and user. So we're going to basically have the relationship key. So we have user ID, which is the internal relation with a user ID. All right. So basically, guys, let me just explain how does this work a little bit. So I'm going to run PHP artisan migrate. All right. So that will create the table for us. And now let's check on here. How does that table look like? So I have player items. So what I'm looking for is that I'm creating a relationship between a table called players, users, and users has an item, right? So I have to store the user ID when I created an item. And that's it. And now when I go back to, let's say, users, I'm just going to create here public, or let's say has many, and we're going to call this items. We're going to import this stuff. We're going to search for player item, which is the table name that we created. And I think we need the foreign key and the local key. So the foreign key on this case is what the user we're using, and the ID is the local. All right. Now that we have this stuff set up, we're gonna just do a PHP artisan make controller. All right. Now it's gonna ask the name. We're gonna call items or item controller. And we are going to create, let's say just an empty, let's create a resource and player item. There you go. Okay, cool. Now that we have this stuff set up and everything's good, we're going to go back to our item controller. And here, we're going to do a couple of things. So we are going to only keep the store and destroy. That's the only methods that we're going to need to do here. We could probably also keep the index because we do need to list the player items. But anyway. So to do this, we do have that stuff. So this is running. We don't need to worry about this anymore. Now here, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it. I'm gonna just copy the item controller. I'm gonna call this item. I'm gonna right click and import it. And now I'm just gonna do get call items. And now we should have index. We're gonna have items store, and we're gonna have a delete method. It's gonna be items and yes, player item, and we're going to destroy that. Right, great. Now we already have all the items created here because Laravel did that for us, which is great. Now let's focus first on the store, right? So if I remember here, let me just copy our validation here for now. I'm going to go back to the store. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to import this. And remember that we need to bring our support facades. Great. Now on here, when we adding an item, we need to add a name, quantity, price, and that's it. So we just need very simple, I'm just going to leave it. So name, we're going to have quantity. Now is that, how do we call quantity? Yeah, that's quantity. And it's going to be required integer. And we're going to have here just price, right? Price. Amazing. Integer, and I think numeric minimum 0. That's it. That's all we got to do. Actually, this needs to be integer, sorry, not a numeric, because a numeric is not an integer value. We're going to have problems if we have that. Now, one thing that I forgot, let me quickly copy those values here. Open up our player item, and here we should have something called fillable. Yes. And yeah, basically that Copilot was spot on. That's what we need to add here. We need to add fillable, name, quantity, price, and a user ID, which is great, right? And I really enjoy using Copilot because sometimes like these kind of things would take ages for me to do, but it's just fill ups. So I really recommend you guys using Copilot when you can as well. Especially if you're new to programming, it helps a lot. But anyway, let's go back here. And now, guys, I'm gonna use, let's say, a different approach. So first, let's DD all those values here. And nice. I'm gonna go back to my here. I'm gonna duplicate the money action, and I am just gonna call this, maybe call, I don't know, store add item, right? Now I'm gonna go back to the body. I'm gonna call name. I am gonna call here, let's say, quantity, and I'm gonna call price. Now this is gonna be, let's say, sword. We're gonna send only, let's say, 1, and we're gonna send the price. It's gonna be 1. I'm gonna press send, and there we go. Oh, actually, nope, we are sending to the wrong place. We need to send it to items. My bad. Now we press here, we send the data, and then on the preview, we should have our data, our validator, right? Now on our validator, what I can do here, get, I think it's called data, or I think that's how it's called. Let me double check. Get data. There we go. We got name and quantity. And now we're gonna get introduced to a new thing in here Laravel, just to make this easy for us to create. I'm gonna get my player item, and I'm gonna do like this time. I'm gonna do create, and I'm gonna pass my whole object like this, and I'm gonna return item create successfully. And let's see if this is gonna work. I really have a good feeling about this. And we have user ID doesn't have a default value. No problem, guys. The problem is that we also need to append our user ID to the request, which is not a problem. What we can do here is that we can do, let's say, maybe I'm just trying to I'm just gonna do it manually, because otherwise it's gonna be too junky and a little bit misleading. So I'm just gonna put user ID, and we are just gonna do here the auth ID, and that's it. That's all we gotta do here. Let's press send, and now we have cannot be null. Let me just double check. I think that user ID is something that doesn't exist. User. Oh, I see. I forgot one thing. It's because I forgot to add the middleware here. Because otherwise we are not logged in properly. Right? Add an item. Let me double check. User. Let's check what we logged in. Oath. Class. Oath manager. That should be everything that we need to do. ID. Did that work? Let me double check what is going on here. So we passing the player. We are doing a post request to items. We have our token, which is the only one we have. So I'm just gonna press and generate another one just in case. Great. Now that we have our token, we can send the request, but we still get nullable, right? So we're still getting an error. Let me double check. Everything here is properly set. So we get the middleware. Let me just, instead of doing like this, let me just do like that. Let's see what's gonna happen. All right. I'm not entirely sure why that's not, it doesn't like to do that, but I'm just gonna add it here. Then after I probably can add a prefix. I think you can even do, yeah, you can do like that. And then we can remove this. That should still work, so it's easier. Anyway, whatever you guys prefer. Now we're going back here. We are getting our user ID, right? And now we should be able to create an item. Now we go back here to our sessions, and let's say, not sessions, sorry. The player items, and we should have an item already. Now, what I would like to do here as well, just before we do the delete function, is that when I get the user info here, when I send a request, I want to get the items. So I'm going to go back to my controller here, right? And I'm going to change this a little bit. I'm going to return something like, let's say, user, right? And then we're going to get the user and user item. And let's get. And we have an error. So what is the error? Oh yeah, forgot to add a comma here. And if I do raw, I have, what is it? The user, actually, return, let me just copy this example, return response JSON, because otherwise Laravel doesn't handle that properly for us on Postman. It still is a valid JSON, but as you can see, it's not returning anything. Now if I send it, now I'm not sure why it doesn't have the data, but anyway, the important thing here, guys, is that now we have the sort here, all right? It doesn't do that, but anyway, I'm just gonna copy this JSON payload, paste it on my VS Code, format the file, and anyway, but I'll just keep it, where is it? Here, we got the sort, right? We got the sorted there. Everything is great. One thing that I notice is that we are sending the items. So maybe if I do maybe something like that, I don't know. Let me just double check here if that would work. Send. I only have one item. What happens if I send the user? Would that have, yeah, it doesn't have the items. Anyway, just leave it like there. We have all the information that we need anyway. We have money, we have the items and all sorts. Great. Now, the next thing I want to do is just go back to our, where we're deleting here, the item, right? And we're just going to do something like, you know, player delete. And then we just return the information saying item has been deleted, right? Cool. Now to delete an item, very easy. You go back here, we're gonna duplicate, right? And we're just gonna call this delete item. Make sure you change this to delete, the type. And now here is gonna basically, we don't need this stuff anymore. And here as part of the URL, we need to send our item ID. In this case, it's number 1. So we're gonna go back here and we're gonna type number 1. I'm gonna press send. Now item has been deleted. Now if I refresh, we have successfully deleted an item. And the last thing, guys, I would like to do here before I finish is that I just want to do a return of the auth user items. So now let's just create a couple of items. So we created, let's say, at least 3 items. And now let's just duplicate the delete. Let's call this get, and let's just call items. All right. And look, let me just rename this to get items. So in that case, I am just going to go back to my web here. And I'm just going to leave the way it was. I don't need it because I completely forgot that I'm doing this. Anyway, now if I press send, I have all the items that belongs to my player. And that's pretty much all I wanted to do for this video. Woof, has been a very long series. I think today we finished everything we need to do on our backend. The only thing now missing, guys, is just to combine both the backend and the front end. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and I see you guys in the next one.